The downfalls of a dirty tank. Remove a big Amazon sword, create a huge dirty mess, which means probably doing a couple massive water changes just to get all that crap out of there. Ugh, love dirty tanks. Hate taking stuff out of them. Welcome to Patty's Aquatics. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the pros and the cons of a dirted fish tank. So, in my fish room here, half of my fish tanks are dirted. Now, I put them together about a year and a half ago. With that being said, I am not an expert when it comes to dirted fish tanks, but what I do have is a year and a half worth of knowledge from startup all the way to now of maintaining and running these tanks. And those are all the points that I'm going to go over in my pros and cons and things that may help you decide whether or not you want one. So with that being said, let's get it on and start. So with any dirty tank, you need the dirt. Now, this isn't really a pros and cons part of it, but I want to explain that I used the recipe that I found off of Father Fish's YouTube channel. I don't have all the exact components he used, but I found the majority of them, but the main ones being organic potting soil and organic compost. Mixed it all together, and I have about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of dirt at the bottom of all my dirted tanks. So the cap has a few purposes. One, it helps to stop the dirt from reaching your water column. Two, it helps prevent ammonia from leaching into your water column. Two very important things. Now, what cap should you use? Use sand or do you use gravel? Well, to be completely honest, I don't know the answer to that. I use both. I have sand and I have gravel. Now, it's really going to depend on your preference and what look you would like to see in your tank. Now, if you're a Father Fish person, they are sand people. And listening to his videos on YouTube, he has a lot of good explanations about why sand is better, and they make a lot of sense. Now, that being said, I also like gravel. And my personal opinion is I think gravel can work just as well, but like I said, I am not an expert on this. That is just my own personal opinion, and really the verdict is out. After a year and a half, I've had no issues with sand or gravel. But to answer what cap you should use, really that's going to be up to you, your preferences, and what your beliefs are. Well, a definite pro of having a dirty tank is your fertilizing schedules. You don't need root tabs, and you don't necessarily need to fertilize your water column. I do a little bit here and there because my nitrates are so low, but my plants still grow like crazy. So, definite pro when it comes to the fertilizing. Another pro of a dirty tank, it's excellent when it comes to plant growth, and it's great for any type of root feeding plants. It is also great as a price point for a substrate. You can buy some very expensive substrates. You can get the aqua soils, but for organic compost and organic potting soil, it'll probably cost you less than $10 to do a tank. Move on to the con side of having one of these dirted style tanks. Now, everything I read when I did extensive research first looking into these type of tanks was that you should not add fish in the first month or two, and the main reason was because you were going to have water chemistry spikes. Now, by water chemistry spikes, I mean that you're going to have ammonia spikes and you're going to have nitrate spikes at the start because of all the nutrients that will be into the water from that dirt. Now, I added fish right away because I had existing fish in these tanks already. And two, I did have spikes. I did have ammonia and nitrite. Now, they were not horrendous by any means, but the way that I combated it was I put a lot of floating plants in my tanks, whether it be hornwort or the duckweed, redwood floaters, all that stuff to help kind of boost the nitrogen process to help keep it a little healthier in the water. And that worked very well for me, and I didn't lose one fish. A definite con is that you have to deal with the water chemistry spikes of ammonia and nitrite. Another con is not to be able to keep any type of fish that dig into the substrate. So it limits the type of fish you can have. Now there is a vast majority of fish that you can have in your tanks, but anything that's going to dig into the substrate and knock all that dirt up in your water column, probably not going to work. Another thing I found in all my research when I first started was saying with all those nutrients that can be into the water column when you first start up, you can have major algae blooms and algae problems to start off with. I never had that, but that is definitely a con for someone to have to maintain that at first when you first start this up. And then the number one con, probably the worst of them all, is you need to find plants that you're going to put in there that are going to probably be more long-term. Now, I made the mistake, if you've seen the opening, of having an Amazon sword in this tank here. And I pulled it out, and it was probably 6 inches around the base all around, and black dirt just flooded up the whole tank. I had to do 2 water changes just to get all that out of there. So a major con is the messiness that it can have of you wanting to move plants or uproot them. So I guess in ending, a dirted tank is not an end-all be-all when it comes to substrates. It has its pros and it has its cons, like all substrates do. But what you want to make sure that you do is do your research. Do your research and find which one best fits you. Well, that's all I got for you today, folks, when it comes to the pros and the cons of having a dirty tank. Now, if this is something that interests you, you're thinking about, do I want to put up a dirty tank? I say 1, go for it. But 2, make sure you do your research. Now, there are so many tools out there nowadays for us to be able to use to find out what we want to do and how we want to do it. Take advantage of it. It's there for you. Now, whether that's doing a dirty tank or just sticking with a normal inert substrate like sand or gravel, they both grow plants excellent under the right conditions, and I like them both. So it's really whatever best fits your needs, and that's what's most important. So with that being said, I want you to go to my channel, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, because you don't want to miss any of my upcoming content. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time here at Patty's Aquatics.